Come on then!
It actually took an Exodus song, Die by the Sword. Now, Exodus were the band Kirk Hammett had been in subsequent, prior to joining up with Metallica. And he took that song with him. And they changed a little bit of around, but it was based on that track that Metallica developed, Creeping Death. So in those two terms, it was a song inspired by the Bible and based on a song by one of their closest rivals in the Bay Area at the time.
It's not just you banging it out. It's got a bit more feel to it. And I mean, what a riff! I mean, God Almighty, that is one hell of a riff. And I think that was a song that really, even the people that were slightly sceptical after Kill 'Em All, when people heard Creeping Death, I think, you know, as the single, they were quite shocked because they sort of thought, Christ, I mean, you know, it's a really great song. It flattened just about everything around at that time with the power. So, yeah, it's a great track.
To let the song breathe a lot more, you know what I mean? Like, traditional thrash had just been 100 mile an hour and in your face, and that's great, but I think they maybe took it to a different step, a different view on thrash with that, you know, and just to basically, that's it. I mean, they gave the song space to breathe rather than just being straight down your throat.
It is, it's just like, you've got the stabs at the beginning, and then it goes down to, like, it goes back down to the riff, and James Hetfield's playing the riff on his own, and then everybody knows it's about to come in. You know what I mean? And the big tom falcons in, and it's straight in, and the crowd goes mad. It's a good song for the crowd to go mad.
It's definitely one of the best songs on Ride the Lightning, and it has this incredible solo in it, which Kirk, to this day, refers to as one of his favourites. It has this amazing fretboard tapping section at the end, and then it ends in this incredible sort of pyrotechnic explosion, which makes it one of the high points of the record easily.
You know it, motherfucker!
I think all guitar solos, to a certain extent, can sound very dated. It's a question of time and the times we're living in now. Grunge kind of killed the guitar solo, and now when you listen to heavy metal from the 80s, a lot of the guitar solos do almost sound out of place. Certainly live, Kirk Hammett was terrible for, and still is terrible for, noodling around and just playing too much and getting too involved in his own guitar prowess, and it's just like, oh, turn off, go away, you know, time for a pint, you know. I don't need to hear a 20-minute extended guitar solo. Kirk Hammett is terrible for doing that, always has been, probably always will, but then he is a guitarist.
I think he was very much from the sort of Van Halen school of playing, where it's just like, I mean, it was just sort of just high on the neck, you know, and just like, I'm going to do a widdly bit here, I'm going to do a widdly bit here, and I'm going to squeeze this in. And it's just like, you know, whoa, look at me doing this, you know. It's just like, there's a sort of lyricism that he began to achieve, I think, later on, you know. But yeah, then it was like, it was really bold and new and obviously incomprehensible to the general record-buying public who had never heard anything like that.
Creeping Death is a live favourite, always has been, always will be. For Whom the Bell Tolls has to be. You can't go and see Metallica and not hear that song. That song is tremendous.
I'll tell you what's cool about For Whom the Bell Tolls is it's got a big, ominous-sounding tolling bell at the beginning of it. Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, Hell's Bells by AC/DC, For Whom the Bell Tolls by Metallica. There you go. That's why it's one of the coolest metal songs of all time. You stick a big bell going bong at the beginning of a metal song, it sounds fucking cool.
For whom the bell tolls. Hey, 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 hey! Don't stop now, man! Make us proud, eh?
It was based on the Ernest Hemingway story, which is very much a love story about things that don't work out right. And apparently it was introduced into the band by Cliff Burton. Cliff thought it might be a great idea to write a song around that particular story. And because it's an epic story, Metallica constructed an epic poem. It's a tone poem in many respects. And I don't think it's overestimating what it does. It's a great metal piece, but it's a tone poem with lots of different things going on.
As a song, it's quite basic, it's quite repetitive, but it kind of works on that level that it is quite a basic song, repetitive, and like any hit single, I guess, it becomes lodged in your head for some reason or other, and it's almost the simplicity of it, combined with the heaviness of it, for what it is, that works.
It was all in E, the bottom tone that Metallica always used, and it pointed directly at the sort of stripped-down songwriting they'd employ later on for the Black Album and after that. And that's one reason why it's such a live anthem. It's simple, everybody knows it. It's a short song, it's easy to digest. It's one of the epic songs on Ride the Lightning, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It is a bit short, actually. In fairness, it's one of those songs that you kind of think they could have dragged it out, because by the time they actually get to like the second verse or the second chorus, it's about 4 minutes has passed, and then there's kind of a solo, and then it goes into that fade out ending with the bell going off again. But it's just, you know, I don't think to say that there's something imperfect about a track from Ride the Lightning. Just, you know, if I say that, I'm going to feel like I'm talking bollocks, really, because it's off Ride the Lightning. You know, there's nothing wrong with Ride the Lightning, for fuck's sake.
What has made Ride the Lightning so popular with Metallica fans is the overall, the whole, which is greater than the sum of the parts. It's a very well constructed album that to this day you put on and you listen to it and you think, Kill 'Em All, the first album, was very primitive and raw. The production really doesn't stand out anymore. The songs come through. Ride the Lightning still sounds, if not quite state of the art, not that far off.
Elektra loved the album, and we were doing some other business with Elektra at the time with bands like Rogue Mail and all sorts of things, so we had a whole load of deals going on with them at the time. And they said, well, look, I'll tell you what, you know, you paid for the last one, we'll pay for the next one and give you the European rights for free. Oh, okay. So we got Master of Puppets for free. And Master of Puppets was the one that kicked it big time.
They delivered the best album of their career at the time when they needed to. They needed to make a brilliant record that didn't alienate all the fans that were going to put their records into the top 5, you know, because they were the world's biggest cult band when that album was released, when Master of Puppets was released, and by the end of that touring cycle, they were just one of the biggest metal bands in the world.
It redefined thrash again, and it raised the bar for thrash again. And it came out in the same year as Rain in Blood by Slayer, and both those albums made everyone else look like a bunch of twats. It's just absolutely made a mockery of everyone else's efforts, because like, this is what metal in the mid-80s is supposed to be about, and everyone else was kind of left going, yeah, okay, what are we supposed to do now? We're not going to be able to top that.
All these amazing songs would have been nothing if there hadn't been a really, really killer production. And Flemming Rasmussen, who once again produced the album in Sweet Silence in Copenhagen, did a great, great job.
Fantastic job. And I don't think he's ever really got the credibility that he deserves for the sound. And I mean, he was working with a bunch of guys who had never done anything, and he brought that together brilliantly.
One of the things that Lars said later on when they recorded Justice for All was that the Puppets album sounded as if it was coming about 2 meters away from behind the speakers, which is a result of the mixing rather than the actual recording. But he was right, there's a lot of space on the album, there's lots of room to breathe. Have a look at the song Orion, which breaks down at least twice into a smaller solo section. There's tons and tons of air that you can hear. It's a really atmospheric album, actually.
In the same way that Ride the Lightning blew Kill 'Em All away, Master of Puppets blew Ride the Lightning away, and it blew everyone else away with it. And the things that they did on that album were incredibly mature is probably the wrong word, because there were still a bunch of crazy metalheads at that point, but the evolution that they were undergoing at that point was startling. You know, it was hair-raising to watch this band go from playing Whiplash and singing songs about drinking beer to doing 8-minute epics like the title track, which is just phenomenal.
Depending on when you hear Master Puppets, whether it's from the beginning, you know, or, you know, a third in, you know, 2/3 in, whatever, you could be forgiven for thinking that they were different songs, because there's just so many changes that are going on. And it's almost like a memory game when you see it live, because it's just like you want to be one of the ones who knows exactly when they stop, you know, exactly when to throw the horns, you know, exactly when to just kind of shout some lyric or whatever, you know, because it is extremely complex. You know, I mean, just like it must have been a beast to play the first few times they tried, you know, because it's just like, how do you remember all that?
The song Master of Puppets has a riff which sounds a little bit more complex than it is. It has a chord change from E to F sharp as well, which sort of elevates the tension. There's a sort of stop-start section in the chorus where James is shouting, "Master, Master, Master!" The vocal line duplicates the guitar line. So it sounds like a complex tune, but actually when you listen to it a few hundred times and break it down to its basic elements, it's just a classic bit of metal songwriting, no more than that.
Master of Puppets was certainly a complex track. It was a complex album, and the band were tight. They were on fire. They were having a real buzz about them. They had a real buzz about them, and rightly so.
It's one of those albums that will never die. You know, if you're a metal fan and Master of Puppets isn't in your top 10 albums of all time, then you are a twat.
Master! Just come on in, oh, he's Master! Master!